Well, welcome back to another amazing episode of Wellness Talks. I hope that you have been learning a lot from this amazing series that we've been unpacking around the whole woman reproductive wellness life cycle. We have found that oftentimes as we progress through life, we start off in our tweens and then our teens and our 20s and 30s, and our bodies are going through so many changes, many of them hormonal, but no one has really ever taken the time to teach us about what's going on with our bodies. And so, as we have been growing and evolving in our personal lives, I was like, it would be great to have a conversation around the reproductive life cycle, right when you start your cycle, all the way through to the perimenopausal and menopausal stages. And so, but today we're going to talk about something that's very near and dear to my heart, and that is pregnancy, birth, and postpartum, what every woman should know before becoming a mother. And the reason why this conversation is very important is because so many women are in this stage of life where they're ready to start planning a family. And many of us have heard about some of the crisis that we are facing in maternal health, specifically in the African American community. And because myself and my guest co host, who you have had the pleasure of learning from as well, because we're both doulas, we are seeing, hearing, and experiencing so many things in the maternal health space. And one of the things that I learned very quickly after my very first year as a doula is it was really important that we take the time to develop a preconception wellness plan. Many of the issues that we're finding in pregnancy were laying dormant or just not addressed before you got pregnant. And so, one of the things that we've learned is if women really take the time to develop a reproductive wellness plan, if many women take the time to just get in tune with their body, to know what's happening with their body, the less likely their chances will be for them to experience some of the health conditions that we see show up in pregnancy. And again, 9 times out of 10, they've been there all along. But what happens is pregnancy begins to exacerbate it, it just begins to magnify it. I mean, everything from mental health to physical challenges like diabetes and high blood pressure. And some women were like, I was perfectly healthy, before I got pregnant. And now all of a sudden, I'm told that I have diabetes or I'm told that I have high blood pressure. And I go, right? And so there's all these factors that contribute to that. So today we're going to really unpack what that looks like because pregnancy and birth are some of the most transformative experiences in a woman's life. I mean, it changes you forever. Right. And many times when a woman is on this journey of motherhood, they have more questions than they have answers. And that is the power of the doula. What we do is, again, we like make sure that we empower women, we answer the questions, we advocate for you, all of the things that you need when you're going through this journey. We don't want any woman to feel like she's alone in this process. And so I want to just kind of start with a few questions, and then I'm going to invite my co host in so that we can begin to really unpack this conversation. Some things I want you to think about as we go into this are what should women know about their bodies before pregnancy? How can families prepare for birth? This whole reproductive health plan, right? And why is postpartum care just as important as pregnancy itself? As a full spectrum holistic doula, not only do I support women in preconception as a wellness practitioner during their pregnancy, but also in their postpartum period. It is so important that women feel supported because hormonally things are happening in her body, in her mind. There's sleep deprivation, there's all this stuff that's happening. And oftentimes, the spouse, the significant other, the family, they don't really know what to do. Everybody's like, oh, the new baby. Oh, it's so cute. All it does is eat and sleep and pee and poop. But the mom is over here like cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, like literally, right? And so as a doula, we love to support our mothers. Yes, the baby is important. The baby is so important, but my mamas, they are important too. And our goal is to make sure that babies grow up with their mothers. So, again, today we're talking about pregnancy, birth, and postpartum wellness and the knowledge that every woman deserves to have before becoming a new mother. So I'm going to invite my guest co host to the stage. I am so excited to have this conversation. I'm glad that we finally got to this
Yeah.
point in our reproductive wellness because this is something that's
Mhm.
very close to both of our hearts. So
Mhm.
let's talk about this. You're a pregnancy and fertility health coach and doula, right? Who is passionate about supporting families with education and holistic care throughout their reproductive journey. So I started off with that question, and maybe you can chime in on this. Let's start with the first question. What should women know about their bodies before pregnancy? Let's just start off with that conversation right there.
Absolutely. So I'm working towards getting in the birthing doula space right now. The Lord just really has me focused. I want to put that out there because I have to make sure I stay in my lane while I'm also like learning to navigate. So my sis, she's more in the birthing space. Like you have that wealth of knowledge. The Lord has not released me just yet to be in that space, although I am a doula. So once I get there, probably sometime towards the end of the year, but I'm more so right now in like the menstrual health and the fertility health, preconception. And these are things that are components that we really don't think about. We just, again, I think with culture, we just feel like, hey, you have sex, you get pregnant, and whoop de doo. And that's not the case until something happens to you, and now you're blaming either yourself or your partner. So, a couple of things that we need to first kind of just deconstruct is, like you mentioned, like what are things, I think you said, what are things that we should be paying attention to our bodies? Number one, with preconception health, that is something that I don't want to say it's a new term, it's just something that's new to culture. In its simplest form, is how are you optimizing your health 1 to 3 months before you get pregnant? And most often than not, you don't know what kind of conditions you have, whether that's a chronic condition or whether you have genetic things that are going on in your body until you're trying to get pregnant as a woman and you're not able to get pregnant. And then this now introduces infertility. Well, infertility could be male fertility or female fertility. It just really depends. But if we take the time to really put forth the effort and intentionality with basic things, let's just keep it real simple and real basic right now. And with our health and optimizing our health, because listen, we're not going to be forever 21. Okay, we're not forever 21. So what you allow in your body, such as, listen, I'm not gonna say shout out to anybody. You should not be smoking, period. You should not be vaping, period. You should not be smoking weed. I don't care what anybody tells you. Let alone doing recreational drugs or any type of drugs. Come off those things. And then, I know for individuals that have, let's just say they like to drink, okay, your alcohol consumption, it is important, more so for men because it does impact your sperm health. We don't often think about sperm health when it comes to pregnancy, but there is now research that shows that sperm health is one of the major contributing factors to miscarriages. It's not the woman, it's the man. And so now that we have a lot more research that is starting to show these things or produce that evidence, it's like we have to take our preconception health a lot more serious. And then you just taking the initiative to start to go to your doctor to say, hey, I don't know what all is going on in my body, but I know in my family history there is cancer, there is diabetes, there is, you may have sickle cell or these really, I'm going to say, harsher types of diseases that are either rare or they run or they may lie dormant until something happens and then it happens to you. I think it's important to start the conversation with that.
Absolutely. I love the fact that you highlighted a couple things. Number one, the male's health. So if there is
Mhm.
something going on with the father,
Yeah.
then 9 times out of 10, something's gonna be going on with the baby, and the baby could actually impact the health of mom, right? And so I love that you
Hmm.
highlighted that. I love that you also highlighted family history. So a big part of preconception wellness planning is to know your family history. right? It's really important. That's why at the doctor, they ask those questions. Is there any family history on your mother's side of this? Is there any family history of you on your
Mhm.
father's side than this? It's important for us to ask those questions and to know what's going on
It is.
because oftentimes those things do show up. Other things that we want to also highlight, and I love the fact that you talked about coming off of any drugs or alcohol. If you're taking prescription drugs, that's even important to really be able to identify
Absolutely.
because sometimes
Mhm.
prescription drugs can negatively impact some of the organs, vaccines, all the things, right?
Mhm.
Nutrition before pregnancy.
Absolutely.
Stress
Before pregnancy.
management, stress management before pregnancy.
Mhm.
It impacts your ability to conceive, right? We've already talked about
Mhm.
cycle awareness. That's why they ask, when was
Cycle
your last
awareness.
cycle? When
Egg
was your last
quality.
cycle? Egg quality.
Egg quality
Okay.
is
It's
important.
so important. This egg quality. Like, how would a person even ask and
Mhm.
who would they ask to even check egg quality? Because I don't even think people really know to even ask that question.
Glad we're having this conversation because I know from our last conversation, I'm just pulling up some notes. We kind of delved into that, but I want to just say that first you would need to go to your gynecologist. Like let's just again, um, just a let's just say your bear doctor, physician, whatever, because we don't have these conversations in minority communities. I don't know what our white counterparts, anybody else does, and that's not something to say. I don't like doing race baiting. I don't like that, but I know that historically they have, the knowledge, the information, and the economic means to support what they need to do. But egg quality is literally just, knowing the strength of your eggs, the health of your eggs. As you get older, that egg quality does decrease, right? For females, when you're born, when you're pregnant with a girl, the girl has literally all the eggs that she's gonna need for her entire life, literally. So as a infant baby, inside your mother, you have all of the eggs that you're born with all of the eggs, which I believe is just so phenomenal. Like God could just be like, "Hey, I'm going to house generations inside of generations." When you think about it, unfortunately for women, as we get older, it just, start to dwindle. But the first thing is just knowing you can talk to your gynecologist and say, "Hey, I'm interested in getting my eggs tested, like the quality of my eggs, what type of test do I need to get done? How many eggs do I have?" They're going to do several, multiple tests. You could see a reproductive endocrinologist that specializes, or these are doctors that specializes in evaluate and treat your egg quality issues using, different means like IVF, egg freezing, which is, a thing now that they're doing. But I find it very interesting that college girls are making money off of this now. That's another topic for another day. And just like supplements to optimize your fertility. Fertility is just, simply put, your ability to get pregnant. Infertility is you going so many months without being able to conceive. So, in its simplest form, which that's what I like to do, go to your gynecologist if you're concerned. But again, when we talked about cycle syncing in our cycles, if you're noticing things that's going on with your cycles, that's a prime time to go see your gynecologist, get a referral for a reproductive endocrinologist, and check, the health of your eggs.
Absolutely. And I'm glad that you highlighted that because most issues show up before you decide to conceive. But what happens is we're not
Mhm.
aware of what's going on. So we talked about in episode 2, if you haven't had a chance to listen to
Mhm.
episode 2, I highly encourage you to do so. Some of the issues that may come up with your body, those things are indicators that need to be addressed before you try to conceive. If they're a problem before you
Mhm.
conceive, they're gonna be an even bigger problem once you conceive.
Mhm.
Let me say that one more time.
Absolutely.
If they're a
Say it
problem
again.
before you conceive, they're gonna be an even bigger problem once you conceive, right? Things don't go away
Mhm.
because you're pregnant. They are magnified. If you have
That's it.
undiagnosed
Mhm.
mental illness before you conceive, You're going to deal with lots of mental illness episodes when you conceive. As a matter of fact, your
Mhm.
postpartum might be even worse, right? Because you had an
That's it.
undiagnosed mental illness. So we want to really
Mhm.
stress how important it is in your 20s, why you think you just
Mhm.
forever 21,
Forever 21.
baby. Why you
Listen.
out here doing all this turning up? I need you
Crop
to
tops.
understand
Listen.
that a time is
Crop top.
coming when you want to
Jordans.
settle
And
on
listen, it come
down.
quick.
You're
Okay.
going to want to settle on down, right? And you need to come see your girls because we got to make sure you're ready. For real, okay? So now that we've laid this
Mm.
foundation around um, the preconception wellness, let's kind of pivot into this pregnancy piece, right? Because when women begin preparing
Mhm.
for pregnancy, there are some very key things that they need to focus on to support a healthy pregnancy. All right. So we've already talked about nutrition, right? Nutrition in preconception
Yeah.
wellness is also very important when you conceive. I know you
Yeah.
craving sugary,
Eh.
salty, warm bread and all the things. I
Mhm.
know you are. I know you
All the things.
craving it, but that needs to be a treat because, ma'am, I'm telling you, as much as you want to stuff your face, I'm
Mhm.
eating for two. Eat healthy for two. It's really important that you have a nutrition plan. Literally, first trimester
Mhm.
nutrition plan, second
Yeah.
trimester nutrition plan, third
Yeah.
trimester nutrition plan, fourth
And
trimester
postpartum.
nutrition plan, which we call the fourth trimester.
Absolutely.
It is so important. And a lot of times, what I do with my moms when they come to me for preconception wellness, and even if they come to me while they're pregnant, the first thing I do is I pivot them to eat for their blood type. 9 times out of 10,
Mm.
that pivot to eating for their blood type is the game changer. If they follow the instructions, they have more energy. A lot of them that are like, oh, I'm so
Yeah.
tired, or I'm not digesting food, or all the things that women complain about when they're pregnant. Just simply switching
Mhm.
to a blood type diet changes everything. It changes the game completely for them. Okay.
Mhm.
Lifestyle habits. We've already
Mhm.
talked about that, like exercise.
Yeah.
I know you don't want to exercise. Most women, their
Basic
first
stuff, y'all.
trimester, they feel horrible. I don't wanna do anything. I know, but can you at least walk? I literally was at the
Can
gym
you at
this
least
morning.
walk?
Can you at least walk? I was literally at the gym this
Yep.
morning and working out in an alpha conditioning class, which alpha conditioning ain't no joke. It's weights, it's burpees, it's box jumps, it's all the things. And I know this woman was a good second trimester was in. Do you hear me? I said,
Mhm.
period. She
Yeah.
was in. And I said, okay, this is so important. I know you want to just lay around and just eat. That's not your friend. It's not your friend.
It's
I tell
not.
my mamas, you have to do at least home prenatal Pilates, at least at home, at least walk on the
Mm.
treadmill, at least do some steps, do something. Please, please
Okay.
exercise, right? Emotional readiness. We also talk about
Mhm.
emotions, emotional regulation, right? We do a lot
Yeah.
of, trauma release when women are pregnant, right? Helping with
I
mindset and emotions. Let's talk about emotional readiness.
I think that is so important. Like one of the things that I like what you said because you don't really know like what's going to trigger or what how your hormones are going to react when you're pregnant until you're pregnant. Well, I've never been pregnant, but it's like when I'm on my cycle, I'm just gonna I don't it's not the same, but it's like everything comes back. Like I'm super emotion. I have heard like women, I have friends that have children, and you start to unearth things that you probably should have either had counseling for or just kind of dealt with. You know what I mean? Or like journaling or something like that, because the everything does feed to your baby. Like the bloodstream is going, it's all flowing in, what I'm saying, one direction. So I do think that is important to kind of deal with things, even if you don't deal with it prior, taking the time to do that while you're pregnant so that your postpartum is a lot less stressful or just challenging. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, your nervous system? How are you, you know, tackling those things?
And waiting until the baby comes is not the time to do it. Ideally, we wanna work on these things in
Mhm.
preconception wellness. However, if you're not able to do it in preconception, we can actually do this during pregnancy. Emotional regulation is really good for labor and delivery as well. And so when you work with a doula, if you have a good doula, she's going to work with you through trauma, any
Mhm.
pre-existing trauma. She's going to work with you
Yep.
on regulating your emotions. She's going to work with you on a number of
Mhm.
things to prepare you for labor and delivery. When you walking in and you in labor, that is not the time to figure it out. It's too late.
Mm.
It's too late at that point, right? It just is
Yeah,
what it is, right? And so this is why we love for our mamas to start with us early in first trimester. In addition to making sure that you're choosing
absolutely.
the right provider, right? One of the things that we do is help women come up with a list of questions to ask their provider,
Mhm.
identify whether or not they're high risk or not. Should they have an OB versus a midwife? Right? And then what they're looking
Mhm.
for in a provider is really important. So we love to even work with them through those processes as well. Is there anything else that
Absolutely.
you can think of, you know, that when women are pregnant outside
Mm.
of what we've already shared that would be important?
Yeah, I love how you said, your provider and your birthing plan. And, like, what is your birthing plan? Like, do you even know? And then your maternity plan. Like, one of the things that I know is kind of new, but I think is very important is really taking the time to look at what's your maternity, like knowing your rights and your laws, right? What's your maternity leave? Looking at your birthing plan. We have seen the things that are happening within the maternity space of, with minority women, unfortunately passing in the hospital or not being taken seriously. But I don't know in Georgia, just as of yesterday or 2 days ago, a doula that I know, and she was advocating for her client, and her client did not want a cesarean section. Now, it was luckily she was recording everything. They say you can have up to so many people in a room, and she was calm. Not even she was very nonviolent, very peaceful, and you could tell that they were forcing her client, or yeah, her client to have a cesarean section. She kept saying, "I don't want this. This is not in my birthing plan." Well, they called like 6 security guards to escort her out. And she's like, "I'm not doing anything. We're helping our client." And it ended up on the news. And it's like, knowing what your rights are and not being for unless you're just in a dire situation where it's an emergency, you don't have to have a cesarean section. You don't have to get no vaccine. Keep that placenta with you, like, because that's a hot market item. Placentas are going for cars now, 15,000 and upwards. Like, don't sell my baby's placenta on no black market and be doing all God kinds of God knows what. But it's just really important to know these things. And I know it's like, oh, it's too much, kind of like how you were saying with exercise. But it doesn't. I've never had children. I've never had sex. It don't take long to get pregnant, and but it take a lifetime to fix these things. You know what I mean? Like it takes a lifetime to undo things that we just have to, as individuals, take more time to be. It's when we say do it for the culture, be educated for the culture. That's my thing. Like, just be educated for the culture. And then when you
Mm,
say my body, my choice, in this instance, we're not gonna talk about the other stuff. My body, my choice. In this instance, it is your body and it is your choice. So you have to advocate for that. Like this is the time to advocate so that you're not part of a statistics on somebody's research paper.
that part. Okay. And I love the fact that you talked about the birth plan. And there are instances when there is an
Yeah.
emergency, right? And your life is in danger,
Mhm.
baby's life is in danger. We need to have a cesarean. But if the
Yeah.
doctor cannot explain to you, it's all about informed consent. Informed consent. Okay. Those are very important words. Explain to
Yeah.
me why I need a C section. Is my life in danger? Is
Yes.
my baby's life in danger? Right? And then give me a minute. If it's life or death, let's go now. But give me a minute to process this because this was not in my
Right.
birth plan. And that birth plan is really important.
Mhm.
And I hate sometimes when we go into the hospital space, how we're treated. Like we're there to harm the hospital, or we're there as
Mm,
like we're against the hospital. We're not. We're there to advocate for
yeah.
our clients to make sure that their wishes are advocated for, but also to make sure that they are
Mhm.
safe and that they are educated and that they are
Yeah.
informed and supported, not bullied, not
And support.
pressured into
Mhm.
a situation for the bottom line, right?
Yeah.
And so when we hear about this whole doula support, more and more families are becoming interested in doula support. And I love the fact that you talked about even being aware of your insurance. What does your insurance cover? Most insurances cover doulas, prenatal, labor and
Mhm.
delivery, and
Prenatal.
postpartum. It's important for you to know your
Yep.
benefits. Most insurance companies are now understanding that doulas contribute to improving maternal health outcomes. We're not saying we're the saviors, but there is some value of having that continuous support. So much so that the World Health Organization gave us a seal of approval. So clearly we're doing something
Mm.
right. So let's kind of
Yeah.
talk about what doulas do, right? And why so many families are choosing to include doulas as a part of their birth team. Notice I said as a part of their birth team. We are on your side, doctors. We are on your side,
Yeah.
nurses. We are on your side, midwives. We're on your side. We just want our clients to
Mhm.
be safe. We love when we come in and we got a good nurse. We love when we come in and we have a good OB. We love
Mhm.
it, right? Because it makes our job easier. What we don't like is when our clients are bullied and there is no informed consent. So, our role as a doula is non clinical. We're there to provide emotional support,
Non-clinical.
right? To make sure that questions are answered, to make sure that they are explained to correctly, right? We're there to
Yeah.
advocate, we're their advocate, right? We're there to educate, we're there to also improve their outcome. If a mom says, I want to labor and have my baby and I don't want an epidural and I don't want Pitocin, let her labor. Let her do that. Now,
Yeah.
as a doula, what I encourage my mamas to do is to labor at home as long as possible. Because if you labor at
As
home
long
in
as possible.
early labor, right? If you labor at home in early labor, by the time you get to the hospital, you're transitioning into active labor and now you're ready to move.
Mhm.
What happens, one of the reasons why they try to speed things along with the Pitocin is because you've been there 12 hours. And usually with the first baby, it's
And
going to take at
listen, that
least hours, right? And so they're like,
yeah.
come on, we can speed this along. You're impatient, they're impatient. So let's speed this along with Pitocin. And the Pitocin is not
It has
always
some.
every mother's friend. So if you can
No,
labor at home and get the natural
it's not.
oxytocin, the natural warm and fuzzy, have
Mhm.
lots of sex, all the things. We say the same thing that's gonna get that got you into it is the thing that's gonna get you out of it. My brothers love to hear me like, Miss Shaw, did you just tell us to have sex? Yes, sir. I need you to have lots of that. Right? Because it helps. Orgasms help. I need you to have orgasms, please, while you're in labor. Come on. I mean, I'm just saying, early labor, you ain't in no pain. Just have a few orgasms. It'll speed things right along, right? People think I am so funny. They like, are you really telling
Speed
us to
it
do
up.
this? Yes. Her water hasn't broke, has it? No, ma'am. Yeah, let's go ahead and get it in real quick. I don't need to be around for that. Call me when y'all ready, okay?
Call me when you're ready.
Call me when you're
That is funny.
ready. Okay. It is a real thing,
That is.
And then once you're transitioning, then we're going to
Yeah.
be there to support you through that entire process. And so again, doulas are a part of the birth team. We just want to make sure that everybody is safe
Yeah.
and that moms go home with their babies,
Mhm.
that parents are raising their children together and one person is no longer there because of a mistake that was made or because of pressure or poor outcomes. So it's all
Yeah.
about education. Okay. It's all about education.
Education.
So let's talk
Yeah.
about some of these outcomes. Maternal health outcomes, especially for Black women, continue to be a serious concern in the United States. Serious, right?
My
So why do you
God.
think education and advocacy is so important for women as they navigate this pregnancy and birth, right? We've already talked about informed consent.
Mhm.
We've already talked about provider communication. We've already talked about the community support, and doulas are part of that community support. Is there anything else that you want to contribute to that, making sure that women understand the importance of maternal health and advocacy?
Yeah, absolutely. Um, we talked about knowing your body. A lot of complications come after after delivery. You see more swelling, edema, just a lot of more just the pregnancy complications come afterwards. We start hemorrhaging. But just a lot of things, just like being aware of your body afterwards, especially within that window after giving delivery. I would just say, within 24, 48, 72 hours, even like a couple of weeks, because you may not have experienced any of those complications like immediately, but we are starting to see like, you know, clots or clotting at like maybe weeks later. Women just think, oh, I just got a typical headache. And I wish that when it comes to the medical space and the healthcare space, like just take women seriously. Their bodies have shifted from not having a child to being pregnant to now having a child that's exited their body. So just really taking hormones and the fluctuations of the body seriously afterwards, but really just advocating for yourself and having your team, family members, you're not being overly dramatic. So if you feel like, you know your body more than anyone else. If something is off, it doesn't matter if it's like, oh, I read this in the textbook and they say it's normal to feel like this. If you are in pain and that pain is exacerbated, go to the doctor, go to the hospital, but just really paying attention to, your body after pregnancy because more complications come afterwards more so during pregnancy. So, I mean, if I could add anything else with just this part of this conversation, it would be that for sure.
Absolutely. And we call this the fourth trimester because after you have a baby, you have an open
Mhm,
womb. You're open. Everything is
mhm,
open, right? This is the most critical time,
everything.
right? Because now your wound is open. If you had a
Mhm.
cesarean section, you had a
Yeah,
major surgery,
yeah,
right? And so it's really important
yeah,
that you're aware of what's happening with your body and those that are your caregivers, your significant other, that they're also aware, right? Again, most people are so focused
mhm,
on the baby that they're not focused on the mom. Sleep deprivation is a real thing.
yeah,
Sleep deprivation affects your milk flow, your mental health, right? Your how
mhm,
you're healing, all
yeah.
the things. And most women, they have a baby and they feel like they got to just keep moving. Right? Back in the day, they used to say, "Sit down somewhere." Some cultures, they wrap you up and they make you stay in the bed
Sit
for
down.
21 days. You cannot move.
Yeah,
All you can do is stay warm and eat soup, and we bring you the baby. You can't even
and
you can get
eat
up and go
soup.
to the bathroom and eat soup. That's it. Because the goal is to keep you warm so that your body can heal. The fourth trimester is so
Mhm.
important, and people focus on the baby shower, the push gifts, that's the nursery, the car
Yeah,
seat, all the things. No, I need you to have a
mhm,
postpartum plan, and that is what your doula will do with you. That's what a good
absolutely.
doula will do with you to make sure that you have a fourth trimester postpartum plan. It is one of the most overlooked parts of the reproductive journey. I'm telling you,
Oh,
right? It's so
absolutely.
overlooked, right? So the physical recovery, your mental health, your organs, everything was all up here. Now it's got to resettle.
Everything
All this,
shifted. Yeah.
everything is
Your
shifting.
first cycle after your first cycle after
Yeah.
your pregnant after your delivery, it's gonna be different.
It's gonna be different. Everything is different, right? And you need to have somebody
Yeah,
to talk to about this
everything
because
is
maybe
different.
your partner doesn't know. They don't really know, but that's what your doula is for. And so we are really advocating for more
Yeah.
postpartum doulas. Not everybody wants to be in the birth space. Not
Mhm.
everybody has the stomach for it because you literally have to have the stomach for it.
Yeah,
But postpartum doulas, anybody
yeah,
can really do that, right? It's a caregiving role,
yeah.
right? Your
It's the
nutrition is
caregiver
so
role.
important, even in that postpartum period, right? And so now we
Mhm.
want to just kind of give some practical advice for women who may be planning to start families in the future. what are some steps again that they can take right now if they're in the planning process, right, to support their
Yeah.
reproductive health? Just let's give them just some real quick recaps to say, hey, if you're in this place where you're
Okay.
thinking about it, maybe you're about to get married, maybe you're going to get pregnant in a year from
Yeah.
now, right? Let's give them some really practical
Mhm.
steps to close out this episode. Of course, if you all want more information, once you conceive, you can visit yourdivinedoula.net. You can, and all of our information will be in the show notes. If you're planning to conceive, we would love to make sure that you had a preconception wellness plans. We are going to be working together more to do some of this because I love being with the mamas and the babies.
Yes.
But I love the fact that now I have a partner that I can refer my moms to help with the
Yeah.
preconception wellness plan. And we come up with strategies to make sure that those moms are well. So let's go ahead and get our families
Mhm.
ready and prepared
Mhm.
to conceive in a healthy way.
I think the first thing really is just having a mature mindset, like making sure you and your partner are on the same page and what you guys want, right? Like, what do we want out of this? We're starting a family. That's the first thing, communication. The second thing is really taking your health seriously. So going to your doctor, getting all of your checkups, just getting, as much blood work as you can get done, because you may find that there are some things that are just, within your genetics or genetically that you did not know. So getting genetic counseling. If you know you have any, if you are have any type of pre-existing conditions, take them seriously, right? We just don't want to just haphazardly just be out here having children, but taking that seriously so that both you and your future child are not you're not setting yourself up for like a high risk pregnancy. Just be aware if you are headed towards that route of infertility. So, your nutrition, making sure you're in optimum health, not that you need to be out here bodybuilding, but your health and your, what you put in your body is important. Knowing your medical management, genetic counseling, these are just basic things. I just think that we should really, in communication, then, just be simple so that you can start somewhere so that if something does come up that is, I didn't plan to have this, or as my sis said, when we're going to, like, for females, they tell you at 40 to get mammograms. Well, you don't have to be 40 now, because if you're predisposed to breast cancer, you got to start getting that early. And that's something for me, like, I had to start just doing early on because cancer ran heavy in my family, and I've been just trying to, start to get genetic counseling with the breast cancer gene that's running in my family. So things like that, we may not want to, but we have to be active participants and initiators of our health. And what you don't know, research it and keep asking questions until you get what you need.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Research, ask
Yeah.
questions, and talk to people who are knowledgeable
Talk, yeah.
about these things because pregnancy and motherhood are not, just medical events. They are life transitions, right?
Mm.
And supporting women during this time requires community. This is who we are. We're community. We're knowledgeable. We care. We're compassionate. In addition to your medical
Yeah.
team, right? It's not too early to begin now. Stay healthy during your pregnancy as much as you can. Hire a doula and don't forsake yourself just because now you have a new baby. I
Mm,
see so many moms more concerned about their
that's good.
baby than they are
Yeah.
about themselves, and
Their
you are
baby.
just as
Yeah.
important as the new baby. And so that's the advice I would leave for before,
Mm,
during, and after pregnancy. And I'm so glad that we had a chance to really kind of lean into this conversation. And of
yeah.
course, there's so much more that we can unpack here today, but we really wanted to,
Yes.
just kind of, plant a seed. I think it's really important that women
Mhm.
understand that pregnancy is a life event. And if you don't prepare for it,
It is.
it will catch you off guard. And we don't want anyone to be caught off guard. Go into it with knowledge,
Absolutely.
go into it
That's good.
empowered, and then you're gonna come out of it empowered for sure. No trauma. We don't like trauma stories.
Mm, no trauma. Yeah, I like that. I think if there's anything I would contribute is reproductive health is not just, reproductive health, pregnancy is not just for women. Men get involved. It takes two to make a baby. I know we hear that colloquialism, but it really does. And the same way that you can lay down with somebody is the same way that you're gonna be in those classes. So take the effort and initiative to see about your health and just go all in supporting and aiding in conversations, communications, and being in the community space of learning everything about parenthood, pregnancy, your own health. So that would be something I am huge on. It's just, we want healthy families, whether you're co-parenting or you're married, just both parties being involved. I think that does help with longevity of healthy families overall.
And fathers are just as important as the moms. And so we want you also to know that doulas
Absolutely.
not only support the mom and the new baby, that doulas are there to support the father as well. And so if you have questions,
Absolutely.
you have concerns, feel free to reach out to us because we want to make sure that you go into this knowledgeable as well. It is a team effort for sure. Absolutely. I completely agree with that.
Yeah.
And so thank you again for, joining us for episode 3 of Wellness Talks as we continue our conversation around reproductive wellness. I want you to stay tuned for one more amazing episode during Women's History Month because the final one is good. We have a special guest that will be joining us
Listen.
and we're going to be unpacking fibroids, heavy periods, and hidden
Oh,
symptoms with a very special guest. I hope y'all ready. So join us next week for another amazing episode of Wellness Talks, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.